go get that COVID vaccine and get your flu shot.
The positive value of gender-affirming care for youth and adults is not in scientific or medical dispute.
That making California a sanctuary state for transgender individuals.
Live and welcome back to the year 2023. I have missed you. There's a lot of stuff that happened while we were on the break, but we're going to get to the stuff that's happening today. Lots of transgender stuff, especially going into place in California with the new year coming, new laws being implemented. A Texas man loses a custody battle, which implicates the California law. The Surgeon General, what is Rachel? The transgender stuff is apparently not in dispute in the medical community. All that and more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Thanks so much for tuning in. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go.
That might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually their name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is January 2nd, the year of our Lord 2023. New you in 23. That doesn't make as much of a rhyme as new you in 22 does. But thanks for joining us. We are back from the long winter break. It is cold where I am. It's probably cold where you are. But to get things started, some heated battles going on in the transgender cultural war. I don't know if you've heard about this story, but this has been making the rounds for a while. This guy, okay, so just to level set this guy in Texas wants to make sure that his ex-wife now does not take their kid and force them to do transgender, quote-unquote, gender-affirming care. Now, this has been going on for a while, but the Texas Supreme Court just heard this case 5 days ago, I think, 6 days, no. In the last couple weeks, last 2 weeks or so, this guy got his case heard. Now, this is fascinating because it doesn't really have much to do with the transgender debate on whether or not the kid should be this or that or the other thing. Obviously, I have my opinion, and I think you have your opinion. This probably similar of the. You shouldn't force this stuff on kids. It's immoral. It's wrong. It's ethical. It's just all bad. Having said that, this is what makes this fascinating. There is a law in California that just went into place yesterday, Sunday, that makes this a lot more complicated. Here, let me just read this from this is from the Post Millennial, and then I will get this clip from a California news station that is pretty fascinating. Also, by the way, thanks for coming back. Brand new year, same old show. If you wouldn't mind clicking the little like button down in this little corner right here, and the little share button, or let us know in the comment section what you think about this particular story. If you're familiar with it already, I would love to read the comments and see what you guys think. Yeah, would really appreciate you doing so. Really does help us out, keep chugging the show along. If you wouldn't mind the little like button down here, or the reaction button would be great. This from the Post Millennial. Jeffrey Younger lost his court case to prevent his ex-wife from taking their son to California, where he can be medically transitioned. Younger has been trying to stop this from happening for years and said that they've now reached the end of the line. He wanted the courts to stop his ex-wife from taking the children to California and to protect his boys from medical mutilation at the hands of their mother, who is a pediatrician. The courts prevented him from forcing the mother to bring the boys back from California. This is a Texas Supreme Court. Younger has accused her of her using the children to help advertise inclusive, gender-affirming practices. And we'll get to some of those terms in a little bit. Rachel Levine had a statement about that is just fascinating over the break that we will get to. But here's why this is freaking fascinating. California passed an insano law a couple months ago that just went into place yesterday. And that law is what creates a big problem in this custody battle here. So effectively, right, this guy and his ex-wife share joint custody over the kids. Okay, fine. Obviously, him and his wife, would fight about if she thinks that the kid wants to be a whatever and is going to do that. That's terrible. But obviously there's going to be a disagreement and they're going to butt heads about it. But the problem comes with this whole custody thing and the state of California. Listen to this clip from this news station, and then I'll explain a little bit more of what this law actually does, because this went into effect yesterday and is going to complicate the crap out of this stuff. Listen to this and we'll discuss on the other side.
There's also a bill from Senator Scott Wiener aimed at making California a sanctuary state for transgender individuals. It will protect transgender people, including kids and their parents, from seeking care here in California from states that have bans and restrictions in place.
Yeah, wow, crazy. Okay, so this guy didn't win sole custody at the state of Texas Supreme Court. That's what he was going for, I think, or something to that effect of like, hey, I get to decide what I want to do with my kids. He still has the joint custody. But given the law, the mom can take the kids to California, and given the state law in California, if the kid is transitioning, which, by the way, all this to be said, I don't believe that kids are able to make that decision, right? That's not a thing that I think is possible for children to make that call. Notwithstanding, if the kid is quote unquote transitioning, this kid's 7 years old, by the way, California state law says that that kid then can't go back to Texas to fulfill the 50% obligation that the Texas state Supreme Court has said, well, no, this guy gets 50%, or they're co-equal in the eyes of the law regarding parenting. Senate Bill 107, proposed by State Senator Scott Wiener, signed into law by Governor Gavin Newsom, prohibits the enforcement of an order based on another state's law authorizing a child to be removed from her parent or guardian based on the parents or guardian allowing the child to receive gender-affirming care or gender-affirming mental health care. What? Okay, so I feel like I've explained this enough, but the bottom line here is the California law that just went into place yesterday disallows or overrides, which I was talking to my wife about this, and I'm not entirely sure legally how it overrides, but it overrides the ability for the Texas state to enforce this joint conservatorship that the parents have. What it effectively does is says, well, this child wants to be a transgender, and the mom lives in California, the dad lives in Texas. So California will not allow the enforcement of joint custody because the dad lives in a state where it's illegal to transition kids. Is this not wild to anybody else? Let me see if I can read some of the comments in here. You guys are all talking about Joe Biden in the comment section. Dude, okay, this is what I'm actually worried about. Ryan says stuff like this starts civil wars. Yeah, that when you have the freaking states combating each other and trying to override each other's laws and pulling families apart and using kids as political pawns is obviously what they're doing. You have the threat of war between the states. Let me see. Younger, the Texas dad, is concerned, per his petition, that in California, his son would be subject to transgender procedures deemed to be child abuse by the Texas Attorney General. By the official opinion of the Texas State Attorney General. Texas laws against medical gender transition for kids and teens is considered child abuse. Whoa, which I agree with, by the way, because clearly it is. Like that should just be plain as day. I can't believe that there's such a big constituency out there that says, no, it's totally fine. Let's just do that to kids and mess up the entire rest of their lives. But holy cow, this is fascinating. Again, from a cultural transgender stuff, like, you know, everybody I think is in agreement, like, hey, don't do that to kids. But the state of California now made it illegal to enforce other states' laws. I don't know how this ends up. Maybe this gets appealed to the federal Supreme Court of like, hey, California, you can't just decide that you're going to ignore the custody laws of a different state. I don't know. I don't know how this works. But what I do know is that the conversation regarding the transgenders, especially kids, is gone up a notch. And I want to show you this. Some lady from the federal government said this. This is Rachel Levine, who is a transgender, and I forget the official title. It's like the Secretary Surgeon General. They're not the Surgeon General. They're like the military surgeon something medical thing. I don't know. But Rachel Levine was talking, what is this? The U.S. Public Health Services Commission Corps about gender affirming care, and said some things that I can't believe that there's not more people out there. And I say all this knowing that we talk about this stuff a lot on this show. And I don't want to bore people with the same conversation regurgitated over and over and over again. But at the same time, I feel like it's worth pointing out that the train is continuing to roll. And if we're not doing anything to stop it, it's going to steamroll all through society. And so that's probably why I talk about this stuff a lot. But anyways, this was a conversation that happened over the course of while we were on break. And also, by the way, too, minor deviation here. I know there's a bunch of stuff that happened over the break. There's more Twitter file stuff. There's a lot of stuff. I was mostly checked out, so I will catch up on all that stuff and we'll bring it to you throughout the week and kind of stretch this week from last 2 weeks, kind of bringing some of the big important things that happened. But anyways, so here we are. Here's where we're going. This is a person that is high up in the federal government talking about things that are just plainly and blatantly inaccurate. I want you to watch this clip, and then we will discuss on the other side. Let me know in the comment section. Actually, let me know in the comment section if this is just talking about this cultural stuff is too much. But anyways, watch this, and we'll discuss on the side. Oh, also, by the way, if you haven't already, would appreciate you clicking the little like button and the little share button. There's like 5 or 6 times as many of you watching that have clicked the little react button down here, especially if you're watching on Facebook. Would really, really appreciate you doing that. Anyways, watch this. We'll discuss on the other side.
Health professionals have a critical role to play. We must continue and to expand their work to address health misinformation directly with their patients. Now, this includes, but it goes beyond COVID-19. So I'd like to just talk briefly about another area of substantial misinformation that is directly impacting health equity in our nation, and that is the health equity of sexual and gender minorities. There is substantial misinformation about gender-affirming care for transgender and gender-diverse individuals. We are in this nation facing an onslaught of anti-LGBTQI+ actions at the state levels across the United States, and they are dangerous to the public health. The positive value of gender-affirming care for youth and adults is not in scientific or medical dispute.
What? Okay, all right. There's a little bit more of this to go, but I have to replay that. You can't just say that and assume that, like, oh yeah, everybody agrees with this. This is, of course, listen to this one more time.
And they are dangerous to the public health. The positive value of gender-affirming care for youth and adults is not in scientific or medical dispute.
Okay. So what this person just asserted is that the gender-affirming care is not in dispute at all in the medical community. Now, in talking about gender versus the gender ideology stuff versus the COVID stuff, different medical issues. However, California also, as of yesterday, just made it illegal to dispute any of the information. So on the COVID side, it's illegal to dispute any of the COVID information. And on the transgender side, the Rachel Levine is saying, well, none of this is in dispute. Well, there are components of it that is illegal to dispute. So we'll continue on.
So we all need to work together to get our voices out in the front line. We need to get our voices in the public eye. And we know how effective our medical community can be talking to communities, whether it's at town halls, schools, conversations with others. And we need to use our clinicians' voice to collectively advocate for our tech companies to create a healthier, cleaner information environment. During a moment when public trust in our leaders and our information is very challenged, the healthcare worker community, the medical community, does, I believe, maintain a high degree of trust, and we have to utilize that, and we have to utilize it effectively.
Okay, wrapping it up, saying, well, yeah, this people have lost trust, and we're the ones that are going to reestablish the trust with the American people by saying that we should medically transition kids into the opposite gender of which they were born. Okay, cool. Let's get to some of the comments. They are all pretty much, you guys are, so, and this is kind of interesting. What I've noticed on a topic level in the comment section here is that in some varying news stories, kind of the categories, there's a lot more snark and hilarity. But when it comes to this stuff, you guys are just angry. Yolanda says, sick. STE says they're normalizing pedophilia. Jennifer says it's a man. I could talk about that a little bit more. I agree, but I also notice I haven't said he or she. I've just said they. And I also, but I don't care what you want to be called. If you want to change your name to whatever, fine, I'll call you by that name, but I will not use your pronouns in that regard. So there's that. Miriam just says, enough. Angela says children should be children. That's, I think, what we're all, that's what we're all thinking. Like, what, like, why? Like, why are we doing any of this? And ST says, yeah, this is disgusting. And wrapping it up, Lynn just says, just here for the comments. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, so this is wild. I think the component of, well, this is not under dispute, I think is a pretty big deal that I feel like should get more attention. But anyways, I want to go to this. Let's go here. Let's go. This is dang interesting. Also, California, and I talked about that briefly. So California's law that got official, I guess, or went into effect yesterday with the state lines, border stuff, and in other laws that went into effect on Sunday yesterday, it made it illegal for doctors to question anything lest it be called misinformation. We talked about this at the time when it was passed and signed into law, but it officially went into effect yesterday. California's AB 2098, the Physician in Misinformation Bill, goes into effect in California on Sunday. Physicians can no longer communicate nuanced risk about mRNA COVID-19 vaccines to their patients without potentially having their licenses revoked. Yes, you heard that correctly. In the state of California, physicians, doctors, or really any medical official, worker, anybody who works in the medical field is no longer allowed to question anything lest it be called misinformation and possibly have their license revoked. Now, I thought the law was kind of interesting itself. This is actually from the verbiage of the California law that outlaws misinformation, whatever the heck that is, by the way. By the way, too, just I know there's it seems like there's a bunch of new people on here watching, which welcome. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't figured out already the leanings that I have towards reality, this is a little bit of a glimpse in it. When I talk about misinformation, and we all talk about misinformation, yes, there are things online that do mislead people. I am not going to pretend that doesn't happen. But if you're looking to convince people of certain information, make a compelling argument. The only people that try to outlaw certain kinds of speech are the ones that don't make the argument well enough for the average American to understand. So if you want, Gavin, to outlaw misinformation, what you're effectively doing is saying, you stupid peasants don't understand my brilliant arguments. Or it's the fact that you can't make an argument cohesively enough for a bunch of people to understand/agree with you. That is my take on misinformation. But anyways, the law says, existing law requires the applicable board to take action against any licensed physician and surgeon who is charged with unprofessional conduct as provided. So the law already says that you have to take action if there's unprofessional conduct. This bill would designate the dissemination of misinformation or disinformation, whatever the heck that is, related to the SARS-CoV-2 coronavirus or COVID-19 as unprofessional conduct. So if a doctor says anything not in line with the accepted prevailing medical opinion of the government, who again is bad at most things, they can be deemed as unprofessional. The bill would also make findings and declarations in this regard. It shall constitute unprofessional conduct for a physician or servant to disseminate misinformation, COVID-19, yada, 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 yada. Okay, so here's where they then define disinformation. And this is where, too, I think, is this law crazy? Yes. Is what they're trying to do nuts? Yes. Is it a bunch of dummies that got into the state legislature because any dummy can win a state legislature seat? Is this them trying to virtue signal to their base or thinking's grandiose ideas of themselves? Yes, that is what this is. However, I'm not entirely sure how much teeth. What? This is what happens when you take 2 weeks off. You can't talk anymore. I'm not sure of the veracity of this particular law because they define disinformation as this. Disinformation means misinformation that the licensee deliberately disseminates with malicious intent or an intent to mislead. Okay, so that kind of clears it up for me at the very least. Doesn't make me any less worried about the direction of the state, but at the same time, okay, so now you have to prove intent. What I thought originally was, well, if they said anything about anything, then if they said any skepticism whatsoever, I don't know. But now you have to prove malicious intent, which I guarantee you is impossible to prove. While this bill is nutso, again, like I said, it's crazy that anybody can even think that this is possible. The implementation and the rule of it, I don't think is going to be very I think about 0 doctors are going to lose their license over this. But the downside, though, still is I would imagine the doctors are going to be scared of losing it without having read the bill and saying, well, you have to prove malicious intent, which is, again, dang near impossible to prove, especially in a doctor-patient interaction. I hope the doctors aren't afraid to say what they actually think because of this bill. That's the actual concern I have with this thing. Speaking of the COVID shot, we take it to our incredibly captivating first family. Joe and Jill went on Ryan Seacrest's Dick Clark New Year's Bonanza thing on Saturday and made it clear what their priorities are for the country. They talked a little bit about just a bunch of stuff, but at the very end, what would you like to tell the American people? This is what Joe Biden said. Check it out. Oh, also, by the way, if you haven't already, again, would appreciate, there's still more people watching right now that have clicked the little like button or the little share button. Would appreciate you doing so. It kind of helps us keep chugging along. I'm having some headphone issues today. Would appreciate you doing so. It helps us keep going. And so if you wouldn't mind clicking the little like button down here and or the little share button or letting us know in the comment section what you think. Check this out. This is Jill's priorities for the new year.
And especially take care of your health this year. Go get that COVID vaccine and get your flu shot.
Well, we are looking forward to a big celebration tonight. Thank you very much for being with us. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you
and to all America.
To all Americans.
Okay. All right. Wow, there's some comments here talking about the last story that I feel like are kind of interesting. But I thought this was kind of funny. She says, take care of your health. Get a shot. Not take care of your health, eat more salad. Take care of your health, go for a run a couple times a week. Take care of your health, get a gym membership. None of those things. It was take care of your health, get a shot. It is interesting too, though, especially over the break. I think it was like December 16th, maybe 18th. There was a big CNN article finally about, well, hey, if you're in shape, the COVID doesn't really do nearly as much damage to you. Okay. All right. I don't know, just interesting priorities and different levels of how people look at health, so to speak, especially people that are pandering to their audience. Also, too, I think it's kind of fascinating. It could have happened, but I don't remember President Trump going on the New Year's thing. I don't know, kind of interesting. Interesting that the big nationally watched people that has people from both sides of the aisle watching didn't, to my knowledge at least, invite the former president. And if he's president again, I wonder if they'll invite him then. I don't know. Should be interesting. Okay, let's well, you know what, we'll save that for tomorrow because I think that was kind of interesting. There's an interesting story out of Russia, but I think that just deviates way too much from what we were already talking about. So we'll just kind of cap it there. Hey, I appreciate all of you sticking around, tuning in on our first day in the year 2023, and also the first day back in a long time. I think I had mentioned that I was going to do a couple shows over the break and just didn't get around to it. So appreciate you sticking around, tuning in. If you haven't already, would appreciate you clicking the little like button and a little share button and letting us know in the comment section. I do go through and read a lot of these comments afterward. Yeah, would appreciate you just hearing what you think about stuff. Kind of, I think that especially the topics and issues that get covered are primarily run by what I read in the comments section. It's like, all right, we're tired of hearing this. All right, we'll move on to something else. So let us know in the comment section what you think. I'm reading some of these right now. They're very funny that I can't. You know who you are. That definitely had a funny comment that I can't bring on the screen. But that'll do it for us today. If you haven't already, would appreciate you clicking the little like button, the little share button, but also give me a follow on any of these social media platforms. Just type in JOBOB pretty much anywhere you have social media. You'll be able to find me. Doing a lot of stuff this year. Doing a lot of stand-up shows. We will be in, I think, the San Diego area in February, and then all across the country in March and April. So if you're in any of the areas when we release that full tour schedule, we would love to see you there. But yeah, you can find any of that on my social media accounts. Just type in JOBOB pretty much anywhere. The Facebook Chiron is wrong yet again going into the year 2023. It's no show. It's just the Jobob. But yeah, we'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Hope you had a happy New Year's and happy holiday season. And see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. God bless America.